Trump truthed again about AI preemption via executive order, and so I guess we need to talk about it. It's Monday, December 8th, 2025. Don't go anywhere yet. I know you're tired of chasing this. I'm tired of chasing this. We've been doing it since the beginning of the year, but we have to keep our eye on the ball. The administration wants us so much to get tired and overwhelmed that we don't catch them doing this in real time. This comes on the heels of him signing an executive order last week about the same thing. Things have changed because the most interesting part about this, last week, the day he canceled the signing of it, Congress was having hearings about AI being nationalistic, and they want to ban exports of NVIDIA chips and almost anything else to do with AI, keep it internal to America so we can have sovereignty. And they brought in a whole different panel of people than they've been speaking to this whole time. And it's bipartisan, it seems, in the House that they're agreeing that we need to keep this in-house. So the whole conversation's changed inside of Congress. The House specifically. I can't really speak on the Senate. They got some bullshit going on over there. And even though this will be challenged by the states because it's a 10th Amendment infringement, you cannot preempt state law in that way, and you can't cancel out laws that the states have in their own constitutions about things. I think Ron DeSantis saw this coming last week because he even put out an AI Bill of Rights for the people in Florida that I'm not super offended by. And so, yeah, even the state of Florida seems concerned about this, weirdly. So there's some factions going on within the GOP on this, as well as Republicans on the ground. And if you're listening and you're wanting to run for office and you can't decide which side to fall on, we're in a realignment period within the Republican Party. We're also in a realignment with the Democrats, but I don't think that's a permanent realignment. I think that's just in the time, but I think the Republicans are going to be forever changed. So if you're running for office, keep in mind, this AI situation is going to change humanity as we know it. And so any issues that we have socially aren't going to matter when they're able to manufacture consent. They will track all of our biometrics. They will surveil us and have every genetic thing, all of the medical records. Like, they will curate our life without us knowing. That's pretty much what's going to happen. So if we can have a party that's literally anti-AI data center party, y'all would win. And then after you solve that shit in the next 2 years after the midterms, then we can get back to talking about social issues. But if we don't deal with this overreach, none of that will matter. It literally won't. So like anything that you think matters literally does not if we don't stop this. And I know that sounds dramatic, but go look. And there's a whole bunch of like competing information from all these tech bros. But let me talk about the AI preemption thing happening. A win for us is I think the AI people lost their back door to Congress because they did a bit ago have to create a lobby. And the lobbying has created this executive order result. And the lobbying has not gotten the result from Congress they would want. So Congress knows something that we don't know. But this is going to turn into a bunch of different court cases if this executive order is signed. He doesn't have the authority to do what he's trying to do. But has that mattered? But a whole bunch of the states are going to have to fight back on this, and it's going to end up at the Supreme Court. It's going to turn into a whole thing. What he's trying to do is bypass Congress before Congress has a chance to regulate it. But things change so quickly, it's really hard to keep up with it. Congress starts to have conversations that are like, I don't know, in line with what some people on the ground would like, and then over in the administration, they come up with a different strategy and different talking points. But AI is not doing well. So if I were you guys, you might consider talking to your state legislators. You might call the attorney general and let them know how you feel about what's going on. And I would suggest over the holidays, because everyone in the federal level, in the House anyway, is about to turn into a midterm monster. And they're not going to be paying attention to everything in the way that you would hope. And plus the arms of both of these parties that we don't elect, okay? I'm talking about the party machine themselves. Who knows what their agenda is? Because the DNC and the GOP are so tied up in Silicon Valley and California and Texas. It's not even funny. I'm not talking about the candidates. The candidates, if they were able to stand independently from the arm of the party, might act differently. So maybe you call the DNC and the GOP and tell them how you feel. My followers called the DNC months and months ago to say, hey, we noticed that you weren't considering polling Pete Buttigieg when you're thinking about primary candidates for the president. And they were like, first off, how the fuck do you know that? I'm how y'all knew that. But guess what? Pete Buttigieg ended up being polled, and he's still being polled. And most of the time, he's ahead. He's ahead of Gavin Newsom right now. And like Kamala's at the bottom. So I think she knows some shit about technology now that they don't think is useful. Same thing with Pete. They really don't want us paying attention to him. But Pete has already said he would not be an executive order president. And when someone says they're not going to be an executive order president, that screams to big business and big tech and big chemical, he's not going to have our back. We can't buy him to bypass Congress to preempt shit. And that's pretty much the whole administration we have. Not making a case for Pete Buttigieg, just explaining the reasoning behind the party being like, let's ignore him. Because listen, Gavin Newsom, deep in Silicon Valley, regardless of how you feel about his memeing and everything, deep in it, okay? So I'm not saying that he is unethical or immoral or what the fuck ever, but you can bet your ass the ones that the DNC are pushing right now, they believe is gonna help big tech. Just know that. That's literally the only thing that matters to anyone right now that's making decisions about the future of humanity is the control of AI. Call your congresspeople, call your state legislators. Over the holidays, what you need to do is look into your local government, figure out your county commissioners and your city council, and start going there. Start looking at what they're doing. Sometimes they'll put the meetings after the fact on YouTube, but you need to pay attention on a state level right now because Congress isn't really fixing this timely, but also it's better to do things right than do things quickly. And that's something that our founding fathers have said too. And so I appreciate Congress asking different questions and having a different set of people on a panel come in to the committees to speak on these things. And I love that it delayed Trump another week, but he's talking about it again. And right now they're saying it's just a draft. But watch him, please, and make this important if you care about humanity, because nothing else will matter if we don't stop this, because we'll get tied up during midterms on this issue in the courts. And if they're midterm monsters and the Senate is fucking whatever they are right now, we're going to lose the plot. And in a year, we're going to have a bigger problem. It's easier to stop it than to fight it after the fact, even though he doesn't have the authority to do what he's saying. But they don't want you paying attention to this. And I need you to hear me, that nothing else will matter. They will manufacture consent through control with AI, and they'll do it globally. That's why they're trying to preempt the states, because they want a global AI. And I'm sorry, I don't really want to take the tea back out of the harbor and bow down to the king. That's all I'm saying, because the conversation was in the UK. Remember when he went and met with the king and had all the tech bros? And they were talking to the UN, and then the UN is backtracking on that now. They're like, AI is going to be the only sovereign thing at this point, protecting us and our whatevers we've got. And so the UN's kind of changed course. The UK hasn't really, but I don't want to take the tea back out of the harbor and bow back down and kiss the ring. I don't. We left because we didn't want to be controlled. And now we're here setting up a monarchy through AI, but a global monarchy. And I don't appreciate that shit. So if you believe in American sovereignty, if you believe in us being able to control our own destiny and control our own freedom and our own free speech and whatever the hell, please pay attention on a state level, because our states are going to be the line. They're going to have to hold it, and they're going to have to fight on our behalf. And not every state is going to get on board. I'm looking at you, Texas. Looking at you, Texas. And there's some other ones too. But if Ron DeSantis is creating a Bill of Rights for AI for the people of Florida, bet your ass it's about to get ugly.